Seeing none, now take the opportunity to introduce our good friend from Washington, Mr. Newhouse, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair Napolitano, Ranking Member Rouser, as well as members of the committee. First, I want to thank you for hosting this Members' Day hearing. It's certainly my honor to be here representing my district in the state of Washington. For more than 30 years, misinformed interest groups have held Central Washington and the Pacific Northwest hostage by threatening to drain the lifeblood of our region. So I'm going to ask you to not include something in this legislation. These groups, in my opinion, are driven by a singular ideological goal: breaching the Snake River dams. They have placed a bullseye on our river system and this critical infrastructure which provides clean, carbon-free energy throughout the region, provides water for our crops, and transportation to move our goods to export markets. Millions in taxpayer dollars have been spent funding federal scientists, engineers, and fish experts in the Obama administration to develop a years-long analysis fine-tuning the operations of the federal river power system. Putting this plan to work, our region continued to harness the power of our rivers for clean, carbon-free hydroelectric power while balancing the needs of our native salmon species. However, for organizations fixated on free-flowing rivers as the only means for achieving environmental success, it has not been enough. They've sued the Obama administration, they sued the Trump administration, and they continue today by suing the Biden administration. So members of the committee, Washington Governor Jay Inslee, as well as Senator Patty Murray, are now looking at your bill as a vehicle to waste taxpayer dollars by forcing another duplicative study in order to seek their own desired outcome. Dam breaching advocates have blinded themselves to the countless other benefits our dams provide for our region, not to mention the great strides our salmon populations have made over the last several years, even amidst the rising ocean temperatures and record levels of pollution in Puget Sound. If these interest groups were truly concerned with our river system, they would look at the science. They would acknowledge the millions of tons of carbon these dams prevent from entering our atmosphere. They would acknowledge our dams utilize world-class technology and engineering to support the most efficient production of carbon-free electricity while also improving fish passage rates between 93 and 96%. Well, I could list data point after data point outlining the vast strides that have been made in preserving and restoring our native salmon populations. It can be better summed up by the 4-year federal environmental study released in 2020 that advised against breaching the lower Snake River dams, which explicitly stated that the dams are not likely to jeopardize the continued existence of the ESA-listed species. I'd be remiss if I did not mention how our dams and the rivers provide a sustainable and efficient way to transport our nation's crops. Barging on the Columbian Snake keep 700,000 semi-trucks off the roads and their emissions out of the air every year. The rivers alone barge more than 50% of U.S. wheat destined for export. It's clear that many of these dam breaching proponents have long since stopped caring about the salmon or the benefits of the river system. The fact that the Department of Justice announced a settlement to stay the most recent legal attack on the river until July of this year, coincidentally, the same date, Senator and the governor announced they would release their plans, demonstrates a predetermined backdoor deal is in the works, and they intend to weaponize WRDA in order to achieve their desired outcome. For those of us who truly care about our region, these actions are deeply disturbing. Breaching our dams is simply not an option, and endless cycles of litigation and continued studies only put our region at risk. In Central Washington, we're all actively working toward a clean energy future, strengthening our nation's supply chain, feeding the world, and protecting our native wildlife. The rivers, dams are at the center of it all, serving an example for the rest of the world. As I've said for years, dams and fish can coexist, and I'll continue to fight for our dams, and I call on these misguided groups to stop playing politics and pay attention to the science which clearly states we are making advancements in the right direction. So I urge the committee to reject any proposal to insert yet another duplicative study in this bill, which will only lend more uncertainty for our way of life in Central Washington and throughout the Pacific Northwest. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman from Washington. Are there any questions for the gentleman from Washington? If not, I believe the gentleman from Washington has a letter that he wanted to submit for the record. Do you want to ask you?